We chant together text 31, Canto 10, Chapter 1. Chatushatam paribharham gajanam hemamalinam ashvanam ayutam sardham ratanam cha trishat shatam chatushatam paribharham gajanam hemamalinam ashvanam achyutam sardham ratanam cha trishat shatam paribharham gajanam hemamalinam ashvanam gajanam hemamalinam ashvanam achyutam shardham ratanam cha trishat shatam chatushatam 400 paribharham dowry gajanam of elephants hemamalinam decorated with garlands of gold ashvanam of horses ayutam 10,000 sardham along with ratanam of chariots cha and trishat shatam 3 times 600 1800 3 times 6 is 18. Okay, so there's more word for word, but we're going to go back, I guess, to text 29, 30, then 31, 32. Because 29 and 30 have no purport. So text 29. Some time ago, Vasudeva, who belonged to the demigod family, or the Shura dynasty, married Devaki. After the marriage, he mounted his chariot to return home with his newly married wife. Kamsa, the son of Ugrasena, in order to please his sister Devaki, on the occasion of her marriage, took charge of the reins of the horses and became the chariot driver. He was surrounded by hundreds of golden chariots. Then this 31-32. Devaki's father, King Devaka, was very much affectionate to his daughter. Therefore, while she and her husband were leaving home, he gave her a dowry of 400 elephants, nicely decorated with golden garlands. He also gave 10,000 horses, 1,800 chariots. There's more, yeah, that's good. There's more horses than chariots, because if it was the other way around, there'd be a problem. And 200 very beautiful young maid servants fully decorated with ornaments. Purport. The system of giving a dowry to one's daughter had existed in Vedic civilization for a very long time. Even today, following the same system, a father who has money will give his daughter an opulent dowry. A daughter would never inherit the property of her father, and therefore an affectionate father, during the marriage of his daughter, would give her as much as possible. A dowry, therefore, is never illegal according to the Vedic system. Hence, of course, the gift offered as a dowry by Devaka to Devaki was not ordinary, because Devaka was a king. He gave a dowry quite suitable to his royal position. Even an ordinary man, especially a high-class Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Vaishya, is supposed to give his daughter a liberal dowry. Immediately after the marriage, the daughter goes to her husband's house, and it is also a custom for the brother of the bride to accompany his sister and brother-in-law to exhibit affection for her. This system was followed by Kamsa. These are all old customs in the society of Varnashram Dharma, which is now wrongly designated as Hindu. These long-standing customs are nicely described here. So sometimes within the Bhagavatam, there are cultural points. And culture is certainly important. Culture, one of the things that culture does is it gives practical ways that affection and respect and social dignity can be part of everyday life. Absent culture, you have something like America. Speaking in a broad sense, of course, there are certainly within America cultured people, but often those cultured people are close to some European or some place where there is some culture. I can easily give examples, but no need. So it helps support higher quality, mode of goodness, higher quality. It helps. It's not in essence, but it's very helpful. So we're hearing a little bit about, well, the previous verse, 28, was 27, 28, Shurasena. So Shurasena was from the Yadu dynasty. And going back to Canto 9, Canto 9 is dealing with lineage of kings from the Sun dynasty and the Moon dynasty. And the Moon dynasty references in this purport that this is the demigod Chandra. So descendants from Chandra into this earth planet came. And Krishna appeared in that Moon dynasty. So Shurasena was one of those kings. He was from the Yadu clan, or Yadu line. And we heard Shurasena settled in Mathura. He liked Mathura. And there was a transcendental purpose of his doing that, whether he was conscious of it or not, because in his family line, Shurasena's family line, Krishna would appear. And since Krishna is eternally connected to Mathura and Vrindavan, by Super Soul's arrangement, he settled there. And then, as we heard, from that time, the Yadu dynasty made their capital, their headquarters, in Mathura. There were others, but that was a very important one, long-standing one. So, Shurasena, when residing in Mathura, had two wives. One was a Kshatriya wife, and the other was a Vaishya wife. So Shurasena had a son and a daughter, Vasudeva and Kunti. Vasudeva and Kunti were brother and sister, daughters of Shurasena. And Shurasena also had a Vaishya wife, and from the Vaishya wife he had 5 sons. And the eldest was Upananda, and another was Nanda, Sunanda, Upananda, and so forth. So when it was time for, the Parjanya Maharaj was in between, Parjanya, and then Nanda Maharaj. Anyway, according to the genealogy, let's go back. Vasudeva, this text 29, some time ago Vasudeva, who belonged to the demigod family or the Shura dynasty, married Devaki. And we hear in this morning's verse, Devaki was the daughter of Devaka. And Devaka and Ugrasena were brothers. Devaka had many daughters. So when it was time for his daughter's marriage, he had 7 of his daughters, mentioned only as one, Devaki, but 6 other daughters were married at the same time, Devaki being the senior-most among them. So Devaka had his 7 daughters, including Devaki, marry Vasudeva. And Devaka's brother was Ugrasena, and Ugrasena had a son who was Kamsa. So they weren't exactly brother and sister, but intimate enough, brother and sister. They were cousin brother, cousin sister. But repeatedly is mentioned the brother of Devaki. Now there's some Puranic detail that when Ugrasena was married, I forget his wife's name, Padmavati, I think. When Ugrasena was married, shortly after their marriage, one demon, there's different versions according to the Puranas, but named Durmila or Drumila, he disguised himself as Ugrasena. And he went and cohabited with Padmavati. And that was, the result was Kamsa. So Kamsa was indirectly the son of Ugrasena, but not directly the son of Ugrasena. The demon Durmila was the father. And that accounts for at least one of the reasons, besides other reasons. One of the reasons that Kamsa was like Kamsa was is because of the way the conception took place, and the father was a demon. So at the time of the wedding of Devaki and the other 6 sisters, the cultural point is that the brother, to show affection to his sister, would drive the chariot. So that the Vedic custom or culture is the wedding would take place at the girl's family's home. Just like, for example, Rukmini, the marriage was at the place of Bhishmaka. So the marriage took place, and then after the marriage, the girl is brought to the husband's place. So Vasudeva, residing in Mathura, was going to be escorted by Kamsa. And so he's the chariot driver, and we're hearing now this detail about the dowry. Doesn't give the detail of the dowry of the other 6 wives, but at least for his favorite, somehow very special daughter Devaki, Chatu Shatam, 400 elephants. And the elephants were decorated with golden necklaces. 400 elephants decorated with golden necklaces and golden garlands. 10,000 horses, 1,800 chariots, and 200 very beautiful young maidservants decorated with ornaments. This was dowry. Now, Western culture, giving as dowry maidservants sounds like slavery or something awful. But the Vedic culture was such that kings took responsibility to maintain people, and maidservants were maintained. Sometimes maidservants were married, sometimes maidservants were not married. But they were cared for by the king, and he had the wealth, the opulence to do so. So 200 maidservants were given at the time of Devaki's marriage, and horses and chariots and elephants with golden garlands. So the system of dowry giving, I don't know so much the history. Those of you from India probably know very well. The noise about dowry giving, it's illegal. I don't know so much the history, but apparently it was some people saying it's illegal. The cultural point Prabhupada establishes, because according to Vedic culture, the father doesn't have to write a will because the property of the father goes to the eldest son. And the younger sons are in obedience to the elder brother, and they assist and so forth, and the elder brother helps maintain the younger brothers. The family is a strong unit. Then what about any girls? So the arrangement was so that the wealth of the father, whatever that may be, in case of a king it's enormous, but in case of somebody else it's less than enormous, it's whatever it is. And it's just showing affection for the daughter. There's other practical purposes, and that is, if they're just getting married, this is at least my understanding of the modern context, if they're just getting married, then they're starting with nothing, so they can start with something rather than start with nothing, so that the father doesn't have to worry that my newly married, now young daughter is starting with poverty. So they can start with something, husband and wife, and then they're on their own. So misuse of anything that's good can easily happen, especially in Kali Yuga. I don't know the detail of how that was misused, saying it's unlawful and whatever. But it's part of Vedic culture since the time of the marriage of Devaki. We know that prior Yuga, the marriage of Ram and Sita and the other brothers, substantial dowry, took a whole big entourage going back to Ayodhya from the place where they were married to take care of this gigantic dowry, gifts to the married girls, married daughters. Showing affection, and that's the emphasis that's given in the purport here. Devaka had very special affection for Devaki, so as a display of his affection, here comes this dowry. And according to his position as a king, very substantial. I mean, what's Vasudeva going to do with 400 elephants? It costs a lot to maintain. It takes a lot of rupees to take care of elephants, 400 elephants. And he wasn't a ruling type of, there's different types of kings, and Vasudeva was more of a minister type. But in any case, 400 elephants. And 10,000 horses. Surprised it makes no mention of cows, but 10,000 horses. And a bunch of chariots. So, from his position, because he's in the line of Shurasena, he's from a royal family, so royal opulence gifted to him from his father-in-law, Devaka. Prabhupada's comment in the purport, these are old customs in the society of Varnashram Dharma, which is now wrongly designated as Hindu. Doesn't elaborate, but wrongly designated as Hindu. The system of Varnashram is, we know it's created by Krishna. At least the Chatur Varnam Maya Shrishta Guna Karma Vibhagaja, created by Krishna. Maya Shrishta. So it's not Hindu. It's from Krishna. It's Vedic. It's a system of social structure. And going to be interesting challenge for ISKCON now and going into the future to restore Varnashram. Like, what model do you look to? Because models of Vedic time, they're not so practical for our present time. Just like one example is the Vanaprastha ashram. Fortunately, there are thoughtful devotees that are at the Vanaprastha stage of their life and are giving thoughtful consideration to the importance of this, one of the 4 ashrams. I was told recently that the former temple president of the Baltimore temple, he and his wife, their children are now grown and married and with their occupations and so forth. So he and his wife left the situation of their home and became Vanaprasthas. His name is slipping. Huh? No. I'm embarrassed that I can't remember his name. A really nice devotee. So he submitted, I was told, I saw him and his wife because I've known them for years and years, and said, why don't you give some thought to writing a book on the meaning of Varnashram, the meaning of Vanaprasthashram. I was told recently he wrote an article for Dandavats, maybe it's going to be in Back to Godhead or something. I'm sure it's thoughtful because he's very well read in the scripture. And I also didn't know this, but during the ILS, one Mataji named Devaki Dasi, and if all goes well, she'll be visiting here in Chicagoland sometime in June. She gave a presentation at the ILS on Vanaprasthashram, and I'm hoping to get a copy of that, just the recording, because she's very thoughtful. So there's some attempts to give some clarity, but if you read in the Bhagavatam about Vanaprasthashram, it doesn't fit. There was an elderly couple that had finished their worldly duties and said, how do we do it? How do we do this? Move on from the Grahastha to the Vanaprasthashram. Go to the forest, wear tree bark, eat dry leaves, and the principle is fine, but how do you apply that principle in their modern context? So they just shrugged their shoulders and did the best they could. The point is, establishing Varnashram in our modern context, which is what is needed. The principles need the modern context. And not an easy thing. But at least here, we're in this little section, we're given some picture of cultural points that are, according to Prabhupada, part of Varnashram. Varnashram means the social structure. For those that are Uttama Adhikari Vaishnavas, like Bhaktisiddhanta, for example. Bhaktisiddhanta demonstrated by his vrata of chanting 3 billion names of Krishna, etc., etc., he was beyond the regulations of Varna and Ashram. He was topmost devotee. But in order to take up the instruction of his father and Gorkishore to engage in preaching work, he came down from that position, so to speak, and accepted a position within the Varnashram system, the sannyas ashram, because that's suited for preaching. And that's what he did. He preached and established an organization meant for propagating the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, the Gaudiya Math. That's within the Varnashram system. And then he conducted himself as a sannyasi, appropriately, strictly. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, similarly, beyond the restrictions of Varna and Ashram, accepted the sannyas ashram for the purpose of preaching, for the purpose of lifting society. He accepted that position. So it's valuable to become knowledgeable in messages from the Srimad Bhagavatam and Ramayana and Mahabharata, so we can appreciate, at least in principle, some of the cultural points of the Varna and Ashram system. Not that exactly as it looked at that time is what we're required to do at this time, but the principles according to our current context. That adjustment requires an elevated person or group of persons to do. It's an acharya principle, basically. But Prabhupada didn't personally establish it, although his last trip back to the West that didn't get completed, explicitly one of the things he wanted to do was show the world how this Varnashram system can be carried out or conducted. That's a big topic. And I'll end there, see if there's some comments or discussion.
So when I hear the Bhagavatam, it speaks of this opulent culture, like so much opulence, so many palaces, kingdoms, horses, elephants. It kind of awakens, I guess, the desire to be a part of that culture of great opulence and like support. And then, also within the Bhagavatam, they're all devotees. So it's a culture of opulence, but it's also a culture of devotion. On the other hand, we hear like great renunciation, especially like the 6 Goswamis and Lord Chaitanya's associates. So I'm wondering how to process that.
How to process, it looks like a contrast to you? Opulence on the one hand and renunciation on the other hand?
I guess do we strive for this?
Did I hit it? Is that the question? Opulence on the one hand, renunciation on the other hand?
Not exactly.
Not exactly, okay.
The question is more like, because we want to establish Varnashram, so do we strive for this kind of opulence in one sense? Because it takes that opulence to manifest like culture.
No. It's just a non-factor. The emphasis that Prabhupada is giving here, specific to dowry, is according to one's means. And he mentions specifically Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, according to their means. They strive, in principle, to make an opulent, but a generous dowry, according to means. So, the opulence of Vedic time is out of sight. But in principle. So the striving is not for the opulence of Vedic time. The striving is understanding principle, applying principle. Doesn't have to include elephants and horses and chariots. But according to one's capacity, one strives. Something nice, something generous and charitable. And the result is a bond of affection. The daughter who has been with the parents for so in this particular case, the daughter has been in the care of their father and mother, now leaving. So it's sorrow for the daughter and sorrow for the parents, particularly. But their affection is going with the daughter, demonstrated in the form of whatever the capacity permits. So it's more principle and relational than it is standards of opulence. You with me? Okay. More?
Yes, I'm just wondering, in terms of like modern context, maybe we don't strive for that opulence, but the importance of some opulence in establishing Varnashram. And
You're asking the same question. So, for example, we have a nice temple. I mean, it could be more opulent, but it's a nice temple. And we offer, according to our capacity, opulent things. Nice dress, nice ornaments, nice cooked foods, nice flowers. We spend a lot of money. I mean, if people wanted to look at our accounting and how much money do we spend for flowers, they'd think we're nuts. But it's opulent for the, according to our capacity. Now, there could be more expensive flowers than carnations, but according to capacity, and so like that. It's not, the striving is that's deity worship, and we strive for opulence in deity worship according to our capacity. But it's not the goal of Varnashram is to make the temple or a householder's home or to be an opulent situation. That's not the striving. Something else? Yes, Subal.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. In your exchanges and connection with those thoughtful devotees who are moving to, or already moving to the Vanaprastha stage, what did you receive from them some one of those thoughts that you can share with us?
I didn't read the article and I didn't hear Devaki's presentation. No. But you can. Probably a good idea. I wish I could remember his name. Very bad. Anyone else? Srila Prabhupada ki jai.